Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Z. My name is Zamel Solanki, and it's an absolute pleasure to be joining each and every one of you again on another episode this morning. And if you are watching, definitely get all up in this energy exchange with some likes, some hearts, because as you know, that's what we're all about here, is about interaction and also energy exchange, because that's what gets us all pumped up in the morning and able to deliver this content to each and every one of you every single weekday morning, but also on Fridays exclusively in the Limitless Network. Now, the Limitless Network, if you haven't joined yet, here's the details here. A group of like-minded people who value health in any way, shape, or form. And they're just building a community around that. Those are the details. So come and check it out. And if you have joined or have been invited by somebody else, make sure that you fill out. There's a few different questions at the start to join the group, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're creating a like-minded community. So we're not just letting anybody in, but we all know that we value health in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, what's your unique way? And that's what we ask in those questions there. So don't be afraid. All we want to do is get to know you a little bit better and then welcome you into the community as well. So that's all. Well, that's the Limitless Network, and all the details are in the description box below for you to check out. But if you are watching as well, definitely drop a comment in the comment section below, because as you know, I'll respond to each and every one of them. And I love seeing your thoughts and takeaways from each and every episode. Now, yesterday we talked about preparing for the busy. We all know that the holiday season is fast approaching, and we are now, I guess, in the thick of, coming into this. For most people, for many people, is a crazy time of the year. And as a result of that, we touched on preparing for the busyness yesterday, and last week we spoke about, contingency planning and things like that. And this morning, we've seen news come out that, and I'm based in Queensland in Australia, that our borders are opening up to the other hotspotted regions in Australia, which is very exciting, a few days early. So I'm very excited about that, to get to see some friends and family that are planning to come up, that I haven't seen in a long, long time. So that's going to be extremely special. But what I wanted to do, I guess, today was touch on, I guess, during this busy period, and I touched on it briefly yesterday, is our ability to check in with our team and seek their feedback. Now, how do we do that to check in versus check up? Check in versus check up. Because at the end of the day, two very similar, activities in the mindset of a leader potentially, but from a recipient can have very different meanings. Check in. Hey, how you doing? How's things? Check up. Hey, where you at on that project? Oh, why isn't that done? These are the sorts of, I guess, mindset associations that we have with these two similar terms, but have two very different meanings. And as a result of that, when we enter such a busy period, how are we checking in with our team to ensure that we're having meaningful interaction with them, to understand their roadblocks and challenges? How are we doing that without necessarily checking up on them, yet still holding them accountable to what they need to do? Now, the term of, I guess, check up, and especially for independent workers or, team members that I want that sort of sense of autonomy that is, at the end of the day, an essential human need. How do we navigate that conversation? Well, firstly, it's about, I guess, how we frame it. How we frame it. If we're checking in, we're now actively seeking out information to help make things easier, to help understand where they're at right now, but to help support them to push through any challenges or roadblocks that they're facing. To check in is to seek an understanding as to what resources they need in order to complete a task, what support they might need in order to complete a task. Whereas checking up is the accountability piece, but in a way in which sometimes comes across as accusatory, as questioning. And as a result of that, based on that individual, they can see, and you might be thinking, oh my God, like, man, how do we get this right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, nothing, but good intentions, but they're taking it the wrong way. I'm not just, assuming that they haven't done the work and that's why I'm checking up on them. Well, so at the end of the day, I guess it comes down to how you're framing this, which I touched on earlier, how you're framing this, but also how often are you doing this? When are you doing this? Are you doing this only when shit hits the fan and you're checking up on them and going, well, why isn't this done? Or are you actually checking in regularly to debrief and understand when things are working really good, as well as when things aren't working so good? And as a result of that, by checking in regularly, we can then debrief and understand and leverage on what we're doing awesome and ensure that we do it even better next time. But for things that we're struggling with or we have roadblocks or challenges with, we can understand the real root cause of that. And the most important time to be understanding the real root cause of that is in times of busyness. Because if we're checking up only, I perceive that to be quite reactive to a situation, whereas check in is quite proactive. It's ensuring that we have a process and a system in place that has open and honest communication that ensures psychological safety to seek feedback, to seek insights, to seek opportunities to improve, to seek opportunities to leverage what we're doing right now. Whereas the check up process, being quite reactive, usually comes about when, oh, there's a deadline fast approaching. I haven't heard anything about this. Oh, I'm worried. Oh, this customer's come in and this hasn't been done. We promised that we'd do this, but we haven't lived up to that promise. What's happened? You know? And it's quite reactive. But the most important part of this is, and as we touched on yesterday, is the stress that gets compounded when we're in times of busyness. And when we're stressed, we tend to let things slip through the cracks unless we're keeping a closer eye on them. And if we're letting things slip through the cracks, then we're starting to check up and act in that reactive sense because we've let it slip, and oh my God, something's happened, and now I need to react. Whereas the check-in process by being proactive allows us to identify things earlier on, to pause, to breathe, and to proactively respond to it in order to cater a response to ensure that we still get the desired outcomes. And if we're checking up and if it's something that we don't want to hear, what is your first response to that? Is it panic? Is it worry? Is it blame? Does your ego start to flare up? And as a result of that, does your ego start to go, oh my God, what is happening at the moment? And look to defend, justify, blame, deflect. What does it start to do? And as a result of that, what are the impacts of that interaction then to your team member, to your colleague, to your customer, your patient, your consumer, your community? What are the impacts of that reaction that you have from an unintended consequence or an unintended outcome that you have now discovered and then are now checking up on? And so, my question to you is, during these times of busyness, how are you going to ensure that you are checking in regularly with your team to ensure that whatever desired outcomes that you want for your business, for your customers, patients, community, for your even for yourself, it works both ways? How are you going to be framing that up now with your team to ensure that that regular line of communication is there in a really open and honest, safe environment? How are you going to be ensuring that your team feels safe during these busy periods, that they can come to you with their challenges and roadblocks and know that they're going to feel supported proactively to ensure that the best outcome can be obtained? So that's my question for you today. What tools and resources? And if you're wondering about that, we've covered off some tools, tips, and tricks, and we'll cover off more tomorrow again about that. But feel free, check it out in the other episodes of Tea with Z, because we've covered off some of these topics before, but just in a different context. So check in versus check up. Where do you sit on that balance? Are you proactive or reactive? And as a result of that, what outcomes are you getting from your team? So that's it from me today. I'm really curious. Drop your comments in the comment section below uh, as to how you go about this and what tools and techniques you use. Because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. It's all about creating, I guess, a wealth of knowledge that we can share. And so that's it from me today. Have an absolutely amazing day. And if you haven't yet joined the Limitless Network, the descriptions are in the comments description. The details are in the description box below. So definitely go there and check it out. And yeah, that's it from me today. So wherever you are in the world watching, thanks for joining me. And I look forward to catching up with you again on another episode of Tea with Z tomorrow morning. Bye for now.